Room 401. I never should have taken the job. It was supposed to be temporary, just a few night shifts as a hotel receptionist until I found something better. The pay was decent, and the place was quiet. A tall, aging building on the edge of town, mostly empty on weekdays. I liked the solitude, the stillness of the lobby at night. Then I noticed room 401. The hotel had 5 floors, but the 4th was different. The halls were narrower, the lights dimmer, and the air felt wrong. My first night on shift, I checked the system out of boredom and noticed something odd. Room 401 had been permanently booked for over 10 years. No check-ins, no check-outs, no housekeeping records, just a single name attached to the reservation. Do not assign. I asked my manager about it the next day. She went pale. Just leave it alone, she said. If the phone rings, don't answer. I laughed, thinking it was a joke. She didn't laugh back. The first call came on my 3rd shift. It was past 2 a.m., and I was half asleep at the front desk when the old landline rang. The screen showed room 401. A chill ran through me. I wasn't supposed to answer. My manager had been clear. But my hand moved on its own, lifting the receiver. For a moment, there was only static. Then breathing. Slow, shallow. Right against the speaker. "Hello," I whispered. A pause. Then a voice, wrong, distorted, like someone speaking underwater. "Come upstairs." I hung up. Then the door to the stairwell opened. Not the elevator. The stairs. I stared at it, my pulse hammering. The heavy door was slowly swinging inward, creaking on its hinges. The hallway beyond was pitch black. Something was waiting. I grabbed my keys and ran. The next morning I quit. I didn't give notice. I didn't even go back for my last paycheck. I just wanted to forget. But room 401 didn't forget me. Last night my phone rang. Unknown number. I shouldn't have answered. But I did. The same static. The same slow, shallow breathing. Then the voice. "Come upstairs." I dropped the phone. My entire body locked up, cold terror spreading through me like ice in my veins. The line was still open. From the floor, the speaker crackled with shallow, wet breathing. I forced myself to move, scrambling to end the call. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone again. I stared at the screen. Unknown number. I blocked it. Then I turned off my phone completely. But I knew it wouldn't matter. I barely slept that night, my brain cycling through the same terrifying question. How did it find me? I had quit the job. Left the hotel. Never looked back. But room 401, whatever was inside it, had followed me. By the time the sun came up, I had almost convinced myself it was a prank. A coincidence. Someone messing with me. Then I checked my apartment door. The deadbolt was still locked. The chain was in place. But the peephole was gone. Not removed. Not broken. Just gone. Like there had never been one at all. That night, the calls started again. I had left my phone off all day, but around 2 a.m., my landline rang. I didn't even know it was connected. I sat frozen on my couch, staring at the old cordless phone on the counter. The screen was blank, no caller ID. Just ringing. I wasn't going to answer. I wasn't that stupid. But then, a sound from the other side of the room. A whisper. "Come upstairs." My blood ran cold. The phone was still ringing. The voice wasn't coming from the speaker. It was inside my apartment. I ran. Didn't grab my keys, my wallet, or anything. Just bolted out the front door and into the freezing night. I didn't stop running until I was in my car, doors locked, hands shaking as I fumbled to start the engine. As I pulled away, I glanced up at my apartment window, and I saw it. A figure standing in the dark, barely visible behind the glass. Tall, motionless, watching. I don't know what to do. I'm writing this from a motel on the other side of town, lights on, TV blaring. My phone is off. My door is locked. But I keep thinking about the peephole, about how it didn't just disappear. It was removed. From the inside. I'm not alone in this motel room. I don't know how I know, but I do. It's the same feeling I had in the hotel lobby that night. The weight of unseen eyes, the air too still, too thick. The bathroom door is open. The closet too. I checked under the bed. I've checked everywhere. But something is here. And it's waiting. The landline rang. I swear to God, I almost screamed. It shouldn't have been possible. This room wasn't booked under my real name. No one knew where I was. But the phone rang anyway. I let it ring. On the 10th ring, it stopped. Then, 3 knocks on the door. Not loud. Not aggressive. Just soft. Slow. Like an invitation. I held my breath, heart hammering so hard I could hear it in my ears. Another knock. Then a whisper. Right outside the door. Come upstairs. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just stared at the door, praying, begging, that the lock would hold. Then just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. Silence. No footsteps. No retreating sounds. Just gone. I waited for hours before I finally dared to move. I packed my bags and left the motel as soon as the sun came up. But as I was walking to my car, I passed the front desk. The night clerk barely looked at me, but then she said something that stopped me cold. Your friend checked out already, right? I turned slowly. What friend? She frowned, flipping through the logbook. The man who was staying with you. Tall, dark jacket. Came down around 3:50 a.m. and left. I just assumed. My blood turned to ice. I was alone in that room. Or at least, I thought I was. I drove across state lines today. I don't know where I'm going. I just know I can't stop moving. But something is wrong. Something is very wrong. I stopped at a gas station a few hours ago. When I stepped into the bathroom, I caught my reflection in the mirror. And for a second, just a fraction of a second, I wasn't alone. There was someone standing behind me. Tall. Dark jacket. A hand on my shoulder. I spun around so fast I nearly slipped, but nothing. No one. But my shoulder was cold. I'm not running from room 401 anymore. It's running with me. And at exactly 2:30 a.m., the room goes silent. The door opens. I never thought much about the noises in my apartment. It was an old building, pipes groaned, the floorboards creaked, and the wind howled through the thin walls. I told myself it was normal. Houses settle. Wood expands and contracts. It was all perfectly explainable. But then I started noticing the pattern. Every night, around 2:30 a.m., there would be a distinct noise, like a soft scratching coming from inside the walls. At first, I thought it was mice. Maybe rats. Annoying, sure, but nothing terrifying. I even called my landlord about it. He promised to send an exterminator, but no one ever showed up. So I tried to ignore it, until the night I heard breathing. I had fallen asleep on the couch with the TV on, something mindless playing in the background. The scratching woke me up first, but this time it was closer, too close. Then, in the darkness of the room, I heard it. A slow, deliberate inhale. Then an exhale. Someone was breathing just behind the wall. I sat up, heart pounding. The apartment was small. There was no room for someone to hide. I knew that. And yet, the sound was unmistakable. Deep. Slow. Human. I turned on every light. Checked every closet. Looked under the bed, behind the shower curtain. Nothing. And yet, as I stood in the center of my apartment, listening to the silence, I felt something I had never felt before in my own home. I felt watched. The next day, I convinced myself I was being paranoid. Sleep deprivation could do weird things to the brain. Maybe I had dreamed it. Maybe I just needed a break. But that night, I locked my bedroom door, something I had never done before. At exactly 2:30 a.m., I woke up again. Not to scratching. Not to breathing. To a whisper. It was so soft I almost thought I imagined it. But then I heard it again. A voice, muffled, coming from somewhere inside the walls. I see you. I couldn't move. My body locked up with cold, primal fear. I strained to listen, heart hammering in my chest. The voice was slow, deliberate. And then after a pause, come closer. I bolted out of bed, turned on every light, and searched the entire apartment again. But I already knew there was nothing in the apartment. The voice hadn't been coming from inside my room. It had been coming from the crawl space. I had never paid much attention to the small vent in the hallway, just above the floor. I knew it led to a crawl space between the walls, but I had never thought about it. Never had a reason to. But now, as I stared at the narrow opening, I realized something that made my stomach twist. The vent cover was loose. The screws were missing. And the metal had been pushed outward. Something, or someone had been inside. Had come out. I grabbed my phone and called 911, barely able to keep my voice steady. The dispatcher stayed on the line with me until the police arrived. They searched the apartment, found nothing. Then one of the officers shined a flashlight into the crawl space. And that's when they saw it. A small mattress. Empty food wrappers. A pile of clothing that wasn't mine. And a notebook. One of the officers flipped through it, his face darkening. He asked if I lived alone. I said yes. He nodded and handed it to me. The notebook was filled with notes. Observations. Dates. Times. My name. My routines. The things I did when I thought I was alone. The last entry was written just the night before. Almost ready. Just need the right moment. 2:30 a.m. I moved out the next day. I didn't sleep that night. After the police left, I sat in my brightly lit living room, staring at the vent, too afraid to close my eyes. Even though they told me the crawl space was empty now, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was still there. Watching. Waiting. By morning, I had packed 2 bags and called my friend Alex, begging to crash at his place. He didn't ask questions. He could hear the fear in my voice. I left without looking back. But the nightmare wasn't over. A week passed. Then 2. I tried to move on. I told myself it was over. The police had searched the building, checked every crawl space. No one was living in the walls anymore. But then late one night, my phone buzzed. A text. From an unknown number. "You moved. I miss you." My stomach dropped. My hands went ice cold. I wanted to believe it was a prank. A sick joke. But deep down I knew better. I didn't respond. I blocked the number. But that wasn't the end of it. The next day, another text. "I see you." I froze. I was sitting in Alex's living room, alone. The curtains were open. My skin prickled. Slowly, I turned to look at the window. A man was standing across the street. Dressed in a dark hoodie, hands stuffed in his pockets, head tilted slightly to the side. Watching. I scrambled to close the blinds, heart pounding in my ears. My breathing was shallow, ragged. I called Alex, barely able to form words. He rushed home, but by the time he got there, the man was gone. That night, I didn't sleep. The next text came at 2:30 a.m. "I found you." I left Alex's apartment the next day, got a new phone number, stayed in a hotel for a while, constantly checking over my shoulder. I didn't go back to work. I barely ate. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that vent, that notebook, that dark figure outside my window. Then a final message. Soon. That was the last I heard from him. Weeks passed. Then months. I kept moving, never staying in one place too long. Slowly, the fear faded, though it never fully disappeared. Eventually, I convinced myself he had given up. But even now, late at night, I still wake up at 2:30 a.m. And sometimes I swear I hear breathing. The shadow in the mirror. I never believed in the supernatural. Ghosts, demons, all that nonsense, just stories to scare kids. But after what happened last winter, I don't know what to believe anymore. It started with a reflection. I live alone in a small apartment in an old building downtown. The kind of place with creaky floors and pipes that groan in the night. It was cheap, and I wasn't picky. The only thing I didn't like was the mirror in the hallway. It was an antique, left behind by the previous tenant. Tall, with a dark wooden frame and a slightly warped surface. It made me look strange, stretched, distorted, like I wasn't fully myself. One night, I was brushing my teeth in the bathroom when I saw something move in the hallway mirror. Just a flicker. A shadow. I turned, but nothing was there. I told myself it was my imagination, a trick of the dim light. But then it happened again. And again. Each night, I would catch glimpses of movement in the mirror, something dark and tall standing just behind me. I stopped looking at it directly. I avoided it like a child scared of the dark, but that didn't help. The thing in the mirror wanted me to see it. One night, I woke up suddenly feeling watched. The room was silent, but something was wrong. My bedroom door was open. I always closed it before sleeping. I sat up, heart pounding, and looked toward the hallway. The mirror. There was a figure in it. It wasn't a reflection. It was in the mirror. It looked like me, but wrong. Its eyes were hollow, sunken black pits, and its mouth was stretched into a grin too wide for any human face. It tilted its head, watching me. Then it moved. Not like a reflection. Not like me. It took a step forward, and the glass didn't shatter, it rippled like water. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. Then the thing in the mirror reached out. I scrambled backward, nearly falling off my bed. The air in the room felt thick, suffocating. I grabbed the nearest object, a lamp, and hurled it at the mirror. The glass exploded, shards flying in all directions. And then nothing. The room was silent. The air felt lighter. The mirror was destroyed, its frame broken on the floor. For a moment, I thought it was over. Then I saw my reflection in the window. And it was still smiling.